Hi, Anna.
Hi.
Hi. Shall we make a start?
Yeah, I think we should.
Yeah, it's looking good. Hi, and welcome, a huge welcome to everyone joining us this afternoon. It's great to see you all here to find out more about data analysis in Educake. We're going to be exploring data analysis on Educake in a lot of detail and diving into the depths of all of the data available once your students have been regularly quizzing on Educake. We'll be looking at some specific use case studies as well. So whether you're SLT, head of department, a class teacher, there really is something here for everyone today. So hopefully there'll be some really good practical takeaways for you where you can go ahead and explore data for yourself on Educake. Just to let you know, the chat box is off, so please do not use the chat box. If you'd like to ask myself or Anna a question, please use the Q&A, which you can find by clicking on More if you haven't already found it. And once you put a question into the Q&A, I will collate everything at the end and we'll have a Q&A session at the end of this webinar when Anna's done her full presentation. Um, just to let you know as well, this webinar is being recorded. So if you have to dash off, please don't worry. It will be emailed to you tomorrow. So do look out for that in your inbox. And also please do share with colleagues. And I have a particular top tip. If you are currently watching this as a recording, press pause right now, log into your Educate account, because what would be great is if you can click along with us. So Anna will be exploring lots of practical insights on Educate, and if you can actually try those out for yourself, that is just a great way of learning, isn't it? So yeah, do click along if you can. So introductions. Let's tell us who you are. So I'm Sarah. I'm one of the account managers at Educake. Love working for Educake. I used to be a teacher myself, so I'm really pleased to be on the front line supporting teachers to use Educake. I have some great meetings with teachers, and we learn as much from you as you do from us. So I'm one of the people who will look after you if you sign up to Educake, and I'm always here wanting to have calls and help teachers get the most out of Educake. I'm joined today by Anna Wallis, who is our product director here at Educake, and she really is at the forefront of things. So Anna is the perfect person to show you around data analysis and Educate because she is where it all started. And you've been with the company for a while, haven't you, Anna?
Many
So
years? Yeah.
yeah, since the beginning. So Anna is great at taking feedback from teachers and putting it into action, and that's what you see on Educate every day. So I will hand over to Anna now, who is going to take you through some of our data analysis features and tell you a bit about the story of how we brought data analysis to Educate. Over to you, Anna.
Great. Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, so I'm Anna. I'm the product director at Educake. And like Sarah said, I spend a lot of time talking to teachers to find out about what they need and what we might be able to do to help you with what you need. And I also talk to Sarah a lot and the other account managers and get their insights on everything because they know a lot. So this is something I'm really excited to show you about, to show you. It's a couple of new data analysis tools. They came from a bit of a woolly problem, but they've been really fun to dig into and work with teachers on a solution for. Where they came from was feedback from teachers. So what we were hearing from schools was that Educake was really nice to use when you were digging into quiz data. So you could get into the question level analysis really well and into that really fine-grained level of detail. But if you wanted to zoom out and look at, a time period or compare groups to each other, it wasn't necessarily that easy to do within Educake. So we listened to that feedback and we launched into some research and we just had loads of conversations with different schools. We held some focus groups, we had some interviews, and we were trying to find out what do you currently do for this kind of thing, for this big picture data, and how might we be able to help you with that? So it's probably no surprise to anybody that every school basically does something different, which makes sense because every school has its own situation. And within your staff, you'll have a unique combination of, backgrounds and skills. But there was a theme with all of the solutions that we were hearing about from schools, and that was a need for context. So we kept hearing, we're putting lots of effort into assessment, and then what we get at the end of it is basically a number. And we're still kind of sat there with a number at the end of the day going, is this good? And especially if you share that with parents, if you send a parent a little thing that says, your child scored 62%, it's not really obvious what that means. It's just sort of a number on its own. So we wanted to help with that. And from these conversations with schools, what we learned was that there are two components to answering that question about is it good? And one of them is how is this student or class or year, how are they doing compared to how they usually do? And the other is how are they doing compared to everybody else? And you kind of need both of those in order to answer that question. Without both, it's not really a complete picture. So that was the goal of these analysis tools. We want to give you the data, but also help you make sense of it. So not just kind of throwing a bunch of numbers at you, but putting them into context. So I'll give a demo of both of the tools. There are two of them. One of them you already have access to. It's called the Data Explorer, which you might know as Analyze Results. So we are awkwardly renaming this because we got feedback that the name Analyze Results is kind of a bit off-putting, basically. So we're renaming it to Data Explorer, which hopefully gives a better idea of what it actually does. And then I'll also show you something called the Data Overview, which is a new tool. It's not yet live, so we're just putting the finishing touches on it now, but we will be rolling it out, I think, in the next couple of weeks, hopefully even days. So that's coming very soon. So without further ado, I'll come over here to my Educate page. This is a demo school, so it's got lots of fake students and fake data in it. But basically where you'll find these is in this set of analysis tools here, right underneath the Markbook, we have the Data Explorer. So basic components of this page, we have the data in a big grid here in the middle, and you can click into any of these things. Along the top, we have subjects, and then along the side, we have year groups. I have tons of year groups in my sample school, but you'll just see the year groups that are relevant to your school in your account. Along the left, there's this blue panel, which is basically the controls for this page. And you can use this to kind of configure what it is you're looking at and then make more adjustments over here. So up at the top, we've got view. So this is the type of information that you're looking at. So what we'll start out on is percent correct, which is your classic red, amber, green, score, basically. It's got national average across the top, which is especially useful if you're maybe a smaller department and you don't have a whole lot to compare to. You can come here to the national averages. The next type of data you can look at is questions answered. So this is basically engagement data. It's how many questions your students have answered across all subjects, in any year group. What I find really useful in this view is if you also use it with these filters. So you can filter by who set the questions. It will start out showing you all questions, but you can look at just teacher set questions, which is essentially homework. Or you can look at just student set questions, which is revision or independent work. This is also useful if you want to look up a particular student or you look at a year group and you can see who is doing revision and also where they're doing revision. So some students tend to do revision just in the topics that they enjoy and they're not necessarily targeting their weaknesses. So it's worth maybe spotting that and having a conversation about effective revision strategies. I'll go back to my original. And then the third type of data that we have is called strengths and weaknesses. And this page is basically meant to look really boring unless there's something that we're trying to flag up to you. So if you see a bunch of light green dots, that's kind of a good thing. That means everything's where it usually is. I'll come back to this a little bit more later. The next thing I want to point out is that there are date ranges here. So as a student moves through Educake, their results stay with them. So if they've been using it for multiple years, they keep their results. And you can see all of those in this Data Explorer. But if you just want to focus on one particular academic year, or if you want to look at a term, or if you're running competitions and you want to get, a week's worth of data, you can do that here. You just click in and choose the start date that you want. The last thing I'll point out is the student search. So this can be really useful if, let's say, you're a head of department having a conversation with another head of department, and maybe you're discussing individual students. You can come in here and just search directly for them. So I might look up Aisha butternut squash, And we can look at all of Aisha's data across all of her subjects. You can look at her scores. You can also look at where she's doing revision if we use these filters again. So that's a really useful tool as well. So I mentioned you can drill into these headings, and that is really the main way of navigating this. So you can, again, use this to kind of set the controls for what you're doing, but then you can dive into a year group. So we could go into year 10. You see all of the classes in year 10. So I can dive into one of those particular classes, or I can look at all of the students in year 10 at once. And then likewise, up at the top, I can dive into a subject. So I can go into science, let's say GCSE science, because we're looking at year 10. I'm going to go into a specific subject, so I'll go into biology. And then here you have a breakdown of the biology curriculum. One thing I'll point out here is you'll see these gray numbers. What that means is that this student, or here, year 10, they have answered some questions, but it's not quite enough for us to feel confident about, saying Sergio's got 100%. That could just be one single question that he's answered. So what you can do is switch over to questions answered just to double check that. And you can see Sergio has just answered 2 questions here. If they haven't answered any questions, you'll have a blank. That's basically what that means. I think we can go even further. We can actually drill further into infection and response and see quite a detailed level of breakdown. So anything that you can set a quiz on, you can see here in the Data Explorer. What I like to recommend is once you've got down to the zoom level that you want to work in, I like to use these sort buttons at the top. And what that does is it just sort of groups it by color. So it's a little bit easier to see color changes that have, well, colors that are different from their neighbors. So you can scroll down and some will jump out at you. It just makes it a little bit easier to look at. Okay, what are we talking about next? Right. One of the best parts, I think, about this tool is that you can click on any of these scores and you can actually open up a report, which is sort of a cross section of all of those different types of information. So I've clicked on year 10 with infection and response, and it has loads of information. So there's a top section about the performance of year 10 and how it compares to the national average. So here we've got a visual with year 10 score and the national average, and then a bar here. We call these the rainbow sausages, which I don't think is going to make it into the marketing, but that's the rainbow sausage. And that's basically the expected score for year 10s based on how they do in other things. There's also a section on how many questions year 10 has answered with a little visual that breaks down how many of those were homework and how many of those were revision. And then you've got a section which is further breaking down the curriculum. So these are all the topics in infection and response. We have both score spread and average score. I recommend using those together. Score spread is basically all of the students in year 10 and how their scores are, how many students are in each of those score brackets. The reason both of these are important is because averages, they're really helpful for a lot of things, but they do hide outliers. And sometimes the outliers are exactly what you're looking for. So for example, a 78 looks quite good and it's kind of in line with the other scores. So you might be tempted to think, okay, we're good on communicable diseases. But if you look in the score spread, there's actually a red bar there. So there are 3 students who are still really struggling with this content and they're scoring in the 20s. So I just like to look at both of those at once. There's also a questions answered column. So there's a little bar chart showing you amount of activity in each of these, and then the number of students who have answered questions in each topic. Below that, we have a scatter plot. So this is questions answered up at the top and then percent correct along the bottom. You can hover over any of these dots and see who these students are. So Raymond Pine Bark Extract is doing a lot of questions, and so is Ali Loquat. And if you see students in this area, so this kind of upper left zone, that might suggest that they're putting a lot of effort in. So they're doing a lot of work, but they're still struggling with the content because this is kind of over to the left. This is the lower scoring range. So those are good outliers to look out for. There is usually another section below this, which I don't have switched on in my demo school, and I apologize for that. But it's a really simple just list of three strongest topics and three weakest topics. And it's just text, and it's really easy to just copy that and paste it into a report when you're putting reports together. So this is a report obviously for all of year 10, but you can pull these up for individual students. So Raymond, pine bark extract, you can get the same thing for him. Um, yeah, that's reports. You'll also notice that some of these scores have a little arrow up or a triangle next to them. And what that is that's flagging that this score is particularly, or this topic is particularly strong or particularly weak for this student. So for example, Lana Wheat, this one's kind of obvious because it's yellow and everything else is green. But if we click on this, you can see this shown in the visual at the top. So this is Lana's score over here, and this is her typical range based on her other work in Educake. I think it's worth going into a little bit more detail about what this bar with the rainbow sausage shows. So it's not just Lana's other scores. What it is how far from the national average Lana usually is. And then we convert that back into what those equivalent scores are for this particular topic. Um, and we do that for a couple of reasons. One is that some topics are harder than others. So if a national average for one topic is a bit lower and students tend to score a bit lower on that topic, we would also expect Lana to maybe score a little bit lower on that topic. The other reason is variance, basically. So here we have the UK average is 68%. If pretty much everyone in the UK in year 10 was scoring exactly 68% in this topic, then it would be pretty meaningful that Lana didn't score 68% in this topic. On the flip side, if scores are all over the place in this topic, it doesn't really mean that much that she scored a 53 and we shouldn't read that much into it. So it's taking that into account as well. And the last thing I'll say about this bar is that it changes. So if Lana's scores start creeping up over time, as she's maybe changing some of her habits, that bar will also change and it will shift to the right. So it's basically, it's dynamic and it's not putting you in a category and then you're stuck in that category forever. So that's what the little arrow is. If you want to see a view that is just those highlighted topics, that's what strengths and weaknesses is for. So it just kind of washes away all the noise and you just see these things that we've flagged as, hey, that's unusual. You might be wondering why it's that interesting that this one specific topic is a personal weakness for Lana Wheat. It's maybe mostly more interesting for Lana herself so she can target her revision on that topic. But the reason it's interesting, on the teacher side is if you look at the whole group, if you've got lots of year 10s who have the same topic that's a personal weak topic, that's no longer that's no longer a personal weakness. That's more of a department-wide thing. So that kind of points to it being maybe an issue with the scheme of work, or if there's a shared resource that everyone's using to teach that topic, maybe it's not quite that clear. If you see lots of red triangles just concentrated in one class, that could point to that member of staff needing a little bit of extra support with that subject matter, or again, it could be the resource that you're using. The way to see that, so you can just scroll up and down and just eyeball it really and see and look for red, or if you come up to the top of the page, we have these spread graphs, so these stacked bar charts will show you like a condensed version of the entire column. So if you just look for areas of red, that can indicate that. It's sometimes a little bit easier to see if you look class by class, so you can see some chunks of red in there. There's loads of information here. I would recommend getting in touch with your account manager. Every school who uses Educake does have a dedicated account manager, as Sarah mentioned, and they know a ton and they can help you figure out your use cases within this data explorer. But if you just want a really quick overview, so if you like all this data, but you don't want to, you're not really looking to explore, you just want a quick top level summary, you can come to the data overview. So where we just were was the data explorer. Data overview is the brand new tool. and that looks like this. So this is basically a slice of each of those pieces of information that we looked at in the Data Explorer, but put all next to each other in one table. You can choose which subject you're looking at. So it will start looking at all subjects, but you can choose, let's say, just science. Again, you can choose a date range, you can download the results. And this one actually has an extra bit of information, which is homework completion, which we're really excited about. So normally you have to go into the mark book to get that, but we've pulled it into the data overview. So it will give you a percentage, but you can hover over it and see an actual, like a count of quizzes. And just like on the Data Explorer, you can drill into any of these year groups and look at the classes, or again, you can look at individual students. If you see something in here that kind of piques your interest and you want to know more about it, you can come over here to the magnifying glass and you can view that detailed report that I pulled up before, or you can go to this student's information in the Data Explorer and then you can start looking around at more context. So I think that's everything I wanted to say. I might hand over to you, Sarah.
Thank you, Anna. That was my first time seeing the data overview. It's very exciting. I like seeing it all in one place. That's really good. And yes, as Anna said, what we love as account managers is when we get to have calls with teachers, heads of department, really helping you work out what you want to find in the Data Explorer tool. So yeah, if you've got a problem that you're looking to solve or a question about your data, please do book in a call with your account manager and we can sit there and help you almost design your lens really. Have you still got the tool open, Anna, the Explorer tool? Could you
Oh,
pop back
yep.
to that for me? Um, yeah, so what we tend to do on our calls with teachers is we will help you design that view on the left in the left-hand pane, and then we will help you drill down into what you're looking to find in the main view, and also help you prepare reports for things like parents' evenings. As Anna said, the ones we often get asked about are when you look at the student view and you pull up the student report, there are some fantastic strengths and weaknesses on there that not only can help to identify next steps in teaching, but also you can just easily copy and paste them into parent reports or use them to direct discussions at parents' evenings. So there's so much valuable information in there. So yeah, thank you so much for that, Anna. That was really interesting. I was just going to see if we've got any questions in the Q&A box, so bear with me. Sylvester is asking Anna if we're going to keep student league tables in the newer version. That's not going anywhere, is it? Because that's a separate thing, right?
It's a separate thing. Yeah, so that's still down here.
Yeah.
We can look at, if there are things in the league tables that you'd like to see pulled into the data overview, that's always feedback that we're interested in hearing. So I would say try them both out, and if there is a combination of things, let us know because we can
Yeah.
maybe do something with that.
It's a really helpful place to go when you're looking at student engagement, isn't it? And it's just all in one place, the student league table.
Mhm.
Whereas I guess we've got that engagement in the Data Explorer, but you have to hunt for it in a different place. Sylvester also is mentioning about how he can see analyze results and no data in overview. Yeah, that's correct. So at the moment, you will all be able to see analyze results still. This is Anna's demo account, as she mentioned, with those weird and wonderful student names. I love them. Um, and so, yeah, you'll still be able to see Markbook, Analyze Results, and Student League tables in that green menu. But when we launch the new data overview tool, it will change to what you can now see on Anna's view there as well. And when can we expect it to be live, Anna? We're hoping in the next few weeks, at least by the end of the academic year. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Cool.
It's imminent. I think we're really just putting last touches on it.
Fantastic. And
Yeah.
we love to shout about these things, don't we, when they do get released? So it won't just suddenly appear. You will get an email explaining that it's there. And yeah, if you'd like to book a call with your account manager, we can explore the new tool with you as well. Stephen's got a question, Anna. He would like to know if it's possible to see first and last results for topics
Oh, good
in
question.
terms of student progress. So we show that on the quiz results page, don't we? But have we ever considered putting
Yeah.
first and last results?
We haven't actually, to be honest, thought about it yet. No, so it's not in here. You can do, Oh, yeah, I would say probably the quiz results page is still the best place for that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So the Data Explorer is cumulative data across everything the student's done, and that's
Yes.
all of their attempts at a quiz. Is that correct?
It does, yeah. So it's got everything. So that includes, yeah, retries of homeworks, but also I think students can even retry their own revision quizzes. So all of that is included in there.
Yeah, so if you do want to see progress between first and last results, the best place to find that really is on the quiz results page, where you can look at the attempts view and you can just see those percentages changing on there.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just yeah, just like
Yeah.
that. Perfect, thank you. So have we got any more questions? Let me just see. Okay, Anna, India would like to know a bit more about the grey numbers on the Data Explorer.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you mentioned you can toggle between the views. I thought that was really helpful. So you can actually see what that grey number is showing in terms of the number of questions answered.
Mhm.
But I'm guessing she's quite a new subscriber to Educake, because she would like to know how many questions students need to have answered before that data begins to populate. And I get asked this quite a lot on our early calls with teachers who are just desperate to see some meaningful data in there. So, from your experience, when do you think you'd start to see some reliable data?
Yeah, so it's, oh, I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's something like at that really detailed level. So if we go into here in biology, so at this topic level, I think it needs to be 5 questions. So it's not
Mhm.
loads, but then at the next level up, I think it's something like 3 topics with 5 questions, and then
Okay.
it builds like that. So when we have enough questions for this topic, we'll show you a score. If we don't have other topics to fill in, we'll still show you that score. You just won't have the rainbow sausage, the that comparison bar.
I think we've got to keep that name. It's great. That's really helpful. So it's kind of the breadth of study, that number would increase then. Fantastic,
Exactly.
thank you.
Yeah.
And then Ian would like to know about access to the data. So, in terms of level of role within Educate, so can all teachers access this data? Is it for heads of department, teachers, SLT? And also, does it look the same for everybody? So, they're different views.
Oh yeah. Yes. So it everybody who's a staff member at your school has access to this, and it does look the same for everybody. So there's no hidden information anywhere. It's very transparent. Everything's there.
Brilliant, fantastic. So, it enables people to tailor their own view to what's meaningful for their role within the school, doesn't it? Fantastic.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, we haven't got any more questions. That's it for today. Thank you, Anna. One really important thing to mention before we finish is that when we close the webinar today, there is a really, really short feedback survey that's just about 3 questions long. And it would be so helpful to us if you could take the time to just answer those 3 questions, please, as we finish. This informs our planning for future webinars. So yeah, when you sign off, everybody, if you could just answer those 3 questions, we would be so grateful. Also, look out for your recording tomorrow, obviously. And I've mentioned it lots of times, so I'm going to say it again. If please do reach out to your account manager for any support. We love chatting to teachers. Like I said, we learn from you just as much as you learn from us. We want to make Educate work for you, and we want to keep that dialogue open and support you in every way we can. So every school has got their own dedicated account manager. We work in regions across the country, so we know our regions really well, and we have some really good relationships with our teachers, and we want to get to know your school context. So please do get in touch and book in that call. You can find us on the website. And of course, a huge thank you to all of you for taking the time to join us out of your busy schedule. If you're watching this as a recording, I hope you enjoyed clicking along, and I hope you can share this with others to help them with their data analysis on Educake as well. And I just wish you all a stress-free run up to the summer break. We're nearly there, everybody. So all the best to you all and your students as well. Thanks so much for joining us today, everybody. Have a great rest of the day. Bye.